All right, well, we are starting a new series this week. We're going to take the next 4 weeks, I think, to go through First John, the first letter of John to some churches that we I think are probably around Ephesus or at least in the area. But we're going to talk about that. We're actually going to talk about some of the background to this letter and to Second and Third John as well, although we're not really going to dive into those textually. But we're going to talk about maybe what's going on with John's situation, that he feels like he needs to write these letters to these churches. We're also going to dive into the central themes. We're going to start that this week. But the central themes coming out of 1 John, well, I think St. Augustine probably said it best, that the major theme of these letters, 1 John in particular, is that of what Augustine calls charity, but what we call love. And so, of course, we're all familiar with when John says that God is love. Now, we're not going to talk about that verse this week, but we are going to kind of hit that theme head on this week first, as we get more into it later on, about love being the central characteristic of being Christian. We're also going to talk about several other things, and one of those that I want to touch on right now in preparation, just to tease you a little bit, is the word fellowship, or what often gets translated as fellowship, from the Greek word koinonia. And we're going to talk about that word in particular, some of the meanings behind it, the nuance of it. But one of the things that's really important about that word, and why I want to emphasize it so much, is that if you read the first bit of 1 John, and we're just going to cover the first 4 verses this week, there's a lot packed in there. But if you look at that, fellowship is what John says is the reason that we should become Christians. I find that really interesting, because today we would emphasize salvation, or most Christians would emphasize salvation. So what role does fellowship have to play in what we're doing? Is it just about eating donuts and drinking coffee after morning worship before you go to class? Or is there something deeper about Christian fellowship that's so important? So we're going to look at that. I think there's a lot to go through in 1 John. We're going to just cover the highlights over the next few weeks, but I think it's going to be a good study. There's a lot of really good material in this letter, and so I'm looking forward to diving into it with you. Read ahead. Go ahead and read the first chapter if you want all of it. That way you just get more of that context, and you get ready to dive in the coming weeks with us. So read ahead, do your own study, get prepared, and let's dive into 1 John this week. I'll see you there.